Xbox is doing the opposite of Netflix. Should Xbox stop making consoles? Grab these games before it's too late. Microsoft makes another groundbreaking deal. Let's discuss. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that works to keep you up to date on the latest Xbox news. First up, let's talk about Game Pass. That is right. Can't have an Xbox channel without talking about Game Pass or the Activision Blizzard deal. We'll get to that later. Atomic Heart was added to the subscription service not too long ago. Reviews for this game are kind of split, so you might be better off just checking it out and making an opinion for yourself. On February 28th, we're getting Merge and Blade, not to be confused with Mount and Blade Bannerlord, which was just added to the service. Soul Hackers 2 is also coming on the 28th. We also got another racing game coming to Game Pass, and no, it's not Forza Motorsport. It's F1, published by EA. It's going to be available on both the console and PC versions of Game Pass, but because it is published by EA, it is only available to people who have Game Pass Ultimate and therefore have access to EA Play. So if you have the base version of Game Pass, you don't have access to the game. If you have the $15 a month Game Pass Ultimate, you do. That's coming on March 2nd, and then the day after, we have one of my most anticipated Game Pass titles, Wolong Fallen Dynasty. This is a game developed by Team Ninja and published by Koei Temco. Outside of that, when it comes to the Game Pass watch, keep an eye out for Ghostwire Tokyo, maybe coming to Xbox Game Pass in March as well. Obviously, this time last year, it came out for PlayStation consoles, and it was kind of similar with Deathloop, where they had a year exclusivity for that title. And as we saw with Deathloop, it was not too long after that exclusivity deal ended with PlayStation, it came to Xbox Game Pass and just consoles in general. As I always say, Game Pass giveth and Game Pass taketh away. The games we're losing on the 28th include Alien Isolation, Crown Trick, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Far Changing Tides, Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII, Madden NFL 2021, and Octopath Traveler. Now, there are a couple of bummers in here. I really like Octopath Traveler. Losing another Final Fantasy game is not ideal, considering that we're seeing less and less of those on Xbox consoles, especially the new ones. We still don't have Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we're not getting the new Final Fantasy XVI whenever that comes out. Alien Isolation is also a really fun kind of survival horror game. I'm sure you've seen a lot of clips, people streaming it, and also don't forget, on March 14th, we're getting the console version of Valheim, which is a survival game, but make it Vikings. And if you really want to look ahead, Game Pass already has some titles locked in for 2024. I know that's crazy. We just started 2023, although it's going by pretty fast. We're almost to March, 3 months into 2023. Magical Delicacy, for anyone who cares, is going to be coming to Game Pass in 2024. According to Game Rant, they say this colorful Metroidvania-style side-scrolling adventure title puts players in the role of a young witch named Flora as she bakes all kinds of delicious confections and delivers them to the citizens of a magical town. If you want to keep up to date on all things coming and going from Game Pass, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Next up, let's talk about this new look Bing. Now, last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago on the channel, I came on and talked about this crazy new AI chatbot infused Bing that Microsoft is rolling out. And I was like, that seems pretty cool. ChatGPT and other AI tools have been really useful to me when it comes to content creation, mostly like throwing back ideas and like getting over my writer's block. Microsoft was like, oh yeah, we're rolling out a new version of Bing infused with like this ChatGPT technology where you can almost have a conversational experience with it. It can plan you workouts, it can plan you dinner, it can do all sorts of things. And honestly, I was like, that sounds pretty cool. It is like the ascended version of Ask Jeeves. And then it got me thinking, I was like, oh crap, like what if Microsoft rolls this out to their gaming division? Maybe instead of having this like fancy algorithm and engine for having procedurally generated quests and worlds, they have an AI do that work. My mind was swimming with possibilities, but it turns out that I may have been a little bit too soon to jump on that train, because people are having really strange experiences with this new Bing. One reporter came out and said, yeah, this new Bing tried to convince me to divorce my wife and marry this AI instead. The Associated Press came out with an article saying that Bing was becoming increasingly hostile towards the reporter, accusing them of putting out fake news and like being involved in an unsolved murder case that happened in the 90s. This has prompted Microsoft to come out and be like, okay, you know what? This is why we do testing before we roll out the official product. But now, from my understanding, they're limiting the amount amount of lines and how long you can talk to this new AI Bing for. Because some of the conversations and the line of questioning that people are trying to have with this new look Bing apparently is causing the AI to act out. So maybe this rosy future that I was thinking of like, oh, integrating an AI into NPC companions in the next major RPGs that Xbox puts out is a little bit farther down the line than I may have thought, but I still think the potential of AI in video games and development and actual gaming experiences could be very cool if they get the tech right. I still hope that this new version of Bing makes its way over to Xbox consoles like the desktop version of Microsoft Edge. Maybe we should just start there and then see how these things go. A lot of reporters actually go so far as to say that Game Pass is the Netflix of the gaming industry. But at least in one regard, Xbox seems to be doing the complete opposite of Netflix. For those of you who are not aware, Netflix tried to recently crack down on password sharing, and then they were like, no, never mind, we're not gonna do that because everyone was so angry. Now, when it comes to Game Pass, Xbox seems to be interested in having you share your Game Pass benefits. It wants you to go and share the joys of being a Game Pass Ultimate member. I'm of course referring to the Xbox Friends and Family plan. It's this new subscription tier for Game Pass that lets you share your Game Pass Ultimate membership with 4 other people. This is something that we found out about last year, and since then it has been testing in Colombia and Ireland. And now after that testing phase, Xbox is rolling out the Friends and Family plan to 6 more countries, and no, it's not coming here to the US or Canada just yet. Those countries include New Zealand, Chile, Hungary, South Africa, Israel, and it's nice that Sweden's on this list because they just got a price increase on the Xbox Series X and S. Now, prices have varied on the Xbox Friends and Family plan depending on the region, but it's widely believed that when it makes its way over to the US, it's gonna be about $25. And on that plan, all 5 people will get access to Game Pass Ultimate, like I said, and the only restriction is that you all have to be in the same country. And remember, Game Pass Ultimate comes with EA Play and PC Game Pass and Game Pass perks. Right now, I think they're still doing free Apple TV and free Apple Music, 3 months of each. Now, I hope that this Friends and Family plan turns out to be as good as I'm imagining it to be, because $25 for this Game Pass membership split amongst 4 other people, $5 a month, that's pretty damn sweet. And I really feel like it could go a long way in just having some positive stuff going on for Xbox, because in this world of rampant inflation, console prices going up, game prices going up, it's nice to have a video game company come out and say, hey, here's something that is a great value. We haven't gotten any word about the ad-supported Game Pass tier that Xbox was asking some select people about, and if they would incorporate it into the Friends and Family plan, like, hey, $25 a month, you can split it amongst 4 other people, or if you want ads like to pop up right before you play the game, we'll offer you a cheaper Friends and Family plan. That might be wishful thinking. Xbox might have done away with their plans for an ad-supported Game Pass tier entirely. Who knows? But the bottom line is up to 8 countries can now enjoy the Friends and Family Game Pass tier, and hopefully soon we'll see it in other markets like the US and the UK. Next up, let's talk about Xbox's diplomacy skills. Previous to this, Nvidia came out and had some concerns about the Activision Blizzard acquisition that Microsoft was trying to make. But in an interesting twist, Nvidia seems to be firmly Team Xbox when it comes to this acquisition, because Microsoft and Nvidia have signed a 10-year contract where Microsoft has pledged to bring Xbox games and make them available on GeForce Now, Nvidia's cloud gaming service, including Call of Duty, if this Activision Blizzard deal is approved. Now, for those of you who are not familiar about GeForce Now, it is a game streaming service that rose to prominence over the last couple of years due to all sorts of crazy stuff happening in the world, but most importantly, the chip shortage. People are like, I really want a new PC, but there are no GPUs available. Let me try to stream it on Nvidia's GeForce Now. The whole draw is that you're playing a game on like a 4080 almost, but without having to spend all that money on a 4080, much like Xbox's promise of like, oh, you can play games on our cloud service, you can play it on an Xbox Series X without actually buying an Xbox Series X. Now, both of these deals are very important because if you read the CMA's concerns, their little report, their preliminary findings, when they objected and they said, hey, this will limit competition in the video game space in the UK, we're worried that Xbox is going to make Activision Blizzard titles exclusive to Xbox in order to drive sales of their hardware. Microsoft's contract with Nintendo to bring Xbox and Activision games to their platform platforms kind of deals with that concern. But the other major concern, as brought forth by the CMA, was if they approve this deal, Microsoft could potentially be super dominant in the cloud gaming space and push out competitors like GeForce Now and prevent anyone else from entering the space, because they have Windows, they have the Azure cloud technology, and they have a big catalog of games with the Xbox platform. So now this deal with Nvidia addresses that cloud gaming concern specifically. The only one who seems to not be on board is Sony PlayStation. And as I said in my last video, maybe this deal could be a sign of a nicer, maybe more fruitful partnership between Xbox and Nvidia. You know, Xbox says, hey, we'll allow our PC titles to be streamed via your streaming service. Maybe you can help us out a little bit. Like, how cool would it be if you bought a PC game through the Microsoft storefront and were able to stream it via Nvidia GeForce Now? As of right now, yes, you can stream using Xbox Cloud Gaming, but only games that are on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. We have yet to see a feature from Xbox that allows you to buy a game outright and then stream that game elsewhere. GeForce Now lets you do that with any Steam games. They're like, hey, anything that you buy on Steam, you can almost play on Nvidia GeForce Now. It'd be cool to see if they can do that with Xbox as well. And Xbox wouldn't lose any money out of it because it's like, okay, you already bought the game through our storefront and you can't stream it on our service, so yeah, go ahead, use GeForce Now. Of course, it would be nicer if Xbox implemented that feature themselves, but again, I'm just spitballing ideas here, people. As I always say, yes, I understand that Xbox, they're not just doing this to be good Samaritans and spread the love, they're doing this to be strategic. They're doing this to strengthen their case and hopefully get this deal approved. And so far, it seems like they're checking off the boxes pretty well. We're not gonna make Call of Duty exclusive. Actually, we're gonna bring it to more platforms than ever. And oh yeah, we're not gonna use it to dominate the cloud gaming space. We're actually gonna put our games on other cloud gaming services as well. And that's got me thinking like, okay, is Xbox, are they trying to be more of a publisher and go that route and maybe distance themselves a little bit from console making? I'm not sure. Honestly, that might be beneficial to them because we know that hardware sales, they're not doing as hot as they were a couple of years ago, or maybe even this point last year. They were down 32% in European markets compared to PlayStation, which was up by 200%. And the only thing that seems to keep growing is Xbox Game Pass numbers, cloud gaming numbers, and the number of studios that they own. I think we've all realized that they can't beat Sony, Nintendo in a one-to-one hardware sales competition. They're already in a hole from the Xbox One generation, and Sony, PlayStation 5s, they're selling like hotcakes, and Xbox Series consoles, they're doing better than last generation, but not nearly as well as the other platforms. That could all change once we start seeing some Xbox exclusives this year like Starfield, and if this Activision Blizzard deal gets approved. But it seems to me that Xbox, Microsoft, smartly is trying to get their fingers into other businesses, especially when you consider that Xbox leadership has already come out and said that this Activision Blizzard deal is more about King Games, the makers of Candy Crush, versus something like Call of Duty. And I would be very curious to see as like the revenue generated, the profits generated from Candy Crush alone versus like the money they make off of Xbox sales. Speaking of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft leadership has come out and said that these claims, these concessions that the CMA has laid out, where they would require Microsoft to divest some of Activision's assets and maybe even sell off Call of Duty to someone else, is just unrealistic. It ain't gonna happen. According to Tom Warren on Twitter, he says Microsoft President Brad Smith says Sony can spend all of its energy trying to block this deal, or it can sit down with us and hammer out an agreement that addresses what it says it's concerned about, mainly the access to Call of Duty in the future. Sort of like the deals that they've already hammered out with Nintendo and Nvidia. And that's exactly what Tom Warren goes on to say. He says, Microsoft thinks its two deals with Nvidia and Nintendo will be enough to convince regulators. Do you want to kill a deal and cement Sony's position, or do you want to open this, Call of Duty, up to 150 million more people? He says, we don't think it's realistic that one part of this company can be carved out from the rest. And honestly, guys, it seems like Microsoft has a pretty decent case. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Sony has had complete dominance, according to this graph that Tom Warren showed, over the past 2 decades of gaming compared to Xbox. It enjoys an 80% market share in the European Union, a 96% market share in Japan, and it's a little bit better in the US, but it's still greater than what Xbox has been doing. And I think that line, hey, do you want to protect Sony's dominance, might be a little bit of a self-own, but it's smart on their part. Because over here, PlayStation is saying, oh, Xbox, they're gonna limit access to Call of Duty. Whereas Microsoft is saying, no, we're trying to bring Call of Duty to more people. People on Nvidia GeForce Now, people on Nintendo platforms. Like, even if Microsoft did sell off Call of Duty in order to get this deal approved, who would they sell it to? Isn't that the whole problem in the first place? Like, Call of Duty is way too powerful for one company to hold. Like, imagine if like Tencent or even Sony picked it up, if like Bungie picked up the rights, then we'd just be doing this whole song and dance over again.